Better Life Faith Church International, and we're just excited to have you here. Those of you who are viewing by way of webcast, if you desire prayer, you can give us a call as the phone number appears across the screen, or if you would like to write us, you can write us here at 5401 West Lake Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60644. And also a special shout out to those of you, if you're viewing this on CAN 36 or especially Channel 25, God bless you. Let's welcome this national and international audience. Well, on tonight, we're going to do an exclusive teaching for our Better Life lesson audience. This is from a series I did about 4 or 5 years ago. It's called the How To series. And on tonight, we're going to teach on how to stay delivered. How to stay delivered. Now, you know, we can be bound by a lot of things. Sometimes we tend to think it's just sin as such, but it can be other areas, you know, and staying and delivered in your Christianity, staying delivered, not just your physical healing, emotionally, staying delivered from poverty. So this goes from A to Z. So we're going to deal with that on tonight. Let's go to Psalms, the 107th number of Psalms. Now, first, we know that before you can stay delivered, you have to be delivered. Psalms 107, verse 20. It says, He sent His word and healed them and delivered them from their destruction. And the Amplified Bible says He sends forth His word and heals them and rescues them from the pit and destruction. So we can more or less say that anything or any issue that can be destructive to your life, it is God's will that you be healed. Healed, delivered, and set free. Let's go to Psalms 33. 33rd number of Psalms, verse 19. And it says, Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth him out of them all. Now, this word afflictions, it really means outside pressures pressing in. Outside pressures, that's what an affliction is. It's an outside pressure trying to press in. So in other words, he says that many are those outside pressures trying to press in, but I have delivered you out of all of them. So we could say total freedom is God's will. Total freedom is God's will. Now, let's go to John. Let's go to the 8th chapter of John. The 8th chapter of John, and let's look at verse 36. Jesus says, If the Son therefore shall make you free, then you shall be free indeed. Those who have Amplified Bibles, it says, So if the Son liberates you, makes you free men, then you are really and unquestionably free. Unquestionable. In other words, without question, you are free. In other words, all appearances of bondage are gone. You have no evidence that you were ever bound. Now, even though, like any of God's promises, even though it is the will of God, but there is a process to it. It is the will of God that we be healed, delivered, and set free, but there is a process. So now, in order for us to be free or to stay free or to be unquestionably free, it has to come through God and it has to come through the Word of God. Now, we're still in John 8. Look up at verse 32. Verse 32. Now, how does this freedom come? Verse 32 says, And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Now, we know with this verse, it's not just saying that the truth itself makes you free, but the truth you know. It's not just the truth itself, but the truth you know. So freedom comes by not just knowing, but freedom comes by practicing the truth. See, deliverance doesn't come just because you know what the word says, but deliverance comes by practicing of what the word says. You know, that's why James, the Apostle James, talks about we're not to just be hearers only, but we're to be doers. So it's not the fact that you get free because you know something, but it's practicing what you know. So deliverance comes by practicing what you know. Now, how do I put myself in a position to know the truth? Let's look up at verse 31. It says, then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, if you continue in my word, then you are my disciples. So now I put myself in position in knowing the truth is by continuing in the word of truth or committing to that truth. But note what he says, that if you continue my word, then are you my disciples. See, that's one of the errors I taught some time ago. We assume all saved folk are disciples. And that's not true. See, he says, those who continue in my word, then you are a disciple. Discipleship is not automatic with salvation. So now, see, a disciple is a committed Christian. Now, we know there are a lot of folk on their way to heaven who ain't committed. And this word disciple, this is where we get that word discipline one. A disciple is one who is disciplined. So we're saying he's a committed Christian. Now, the way in getting delivered, staying delivered, it requires the same thing. To get delivered and stay delivered requires the same thing. First thing it takes, when I get into any type of teaching, is a decision. There's that power of a decision. You know, to get delivered and stay delivered, it requires a decision. In other words, you got to be willing to do whatever it takes to not only be free, but to stay free. Hallelujah. Without your decision, it's not going to happen. No one else can will you to be free. You know, as much as God has designed for us to walk in our freedom, God can't make us be free. So no one can will you to be free. Not your family, not the church, anyone. Why? Because deliverance is a choice. It is a choice. Just like staying bound is a choice. You know, when people be like, I can't help it. Yes, you can. It's a choice. Deliverance is a choice, just like staying bound is a choice. Let's go to Galatians. The 5th chapter of Galatians. 5th chapter of Galatians, verse 1 says, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. Amplified Bible says, it was for this freedom that Christ has made us free and completely liberated us. Stand fast then, and do not be hampered and held in snare, and submit again to a yoke of slavery which you have once put off. See, this is a choice. You see, standing and willing to do whatever it takes is a choice. But I like how the Amplified Bible says, do not submit again to the yoke of slavery. See, you decide. You decide, am I going to submit to the ways of bondage, or am I going to submit to the ways of freedom? You know, so you make that decision. So now, in order to stay free, you can't submit again to whatever it is that caused you to get bound. See, this is what I say. Freedom is a choice, but bondage is a choice also, too. So he says here, don't be hampered or held in snare or submit again to that yoke of slavery which you have once put off. Don't go back to it. So you decide, you know. So now in order to stay free, you cannot submit again to whatever it is that caused you to get bound. Now, we've all been bound by things in our life. But he said, don't go back to what caused you. See, and that goes with anything. You know, I look over my own life. What caused me to stay in poverty? Can't go back to that. Now, from a spiritual aspect, can't go back to not tithing, not sowing. You know, and that goes with any and everything. Not studying the word. All right? So there are many things that really could have started your, I like to call that downward spiral, you know. Now with some, you know, and you have to sometimes locate that. You know, if you've gotten off, where did it start at? Depending on who you are, it started with some folks disobeying their parents. You know, I know with most Christians, it starts when they stop coming to church for whatever reason. With some, stop their giving, stop their fasting, praying, stop studying the word. That downward spiral started with some when you start hanging out with certain people. When you start doing something different. Some when you got your own place. With some when you got your own phone. When you got a computer. See, whatever it is, what is it that started that downward spiral? You know, because you don't just automatically, you be here and then all of a sudden you over there. That doesn't automatically happen. There's a cause to everything. Once upon a time you were here, now you're down here. I've said this for years. One bad decision can open the door to a house of consequences. Write that down. One bad decision. Don't take a lot. Sometimes people think that, you know, 5 decisions mean 5, or 5 bad decisions mean 5 consequences. Nope. Many times just one. One bad decision can open the door to a house of consequences. And I'm serious now. Some people think that, well, I just did that. That one thing can open the door to a house of bad decisions. See, because there's a beginning to every story. You know, sometimes what began as something small or what began as nothing has turned into something. So you have to trace, where did the bondage begin? You know, and that's one of the things I say when I do teaching on self-inventory. Okay, what happened here? Where did I get off? Where did this all start? Because it started somewhere. And like I say, some things can start off like it's nothing. You know, like it's nothing. You know, the occasional drinking wine with the dinner. Don't write me no ugly letters. I ain't saying you ain't going to heaven. I'm just making a point. See, that type of teaching, my Pentecostals love me. But some of the other ones, you're too deep, you know. So you have to back up. Where did it start? You know, where I have to trace. You know, things were fine a year ago, this time of last year, or this time 6 months ago. What happened? Now notice once again in that Galatians 5:1 says, don't submit to the yoke. See, because what yoke does, yoke pressures you, it grabs you, and then eventually chokes you. So don't submit to it. Now, this is where some folk miss it too. You can't befriend the environment that had a role in your bondage. Write that down. You cannot befriend the environment that had a role in your bondage. I like to say you can't even wear a piece of your captivity. So don't befriend the environment that had a role in your bondage. You know, that's why sometimes you have to be careful, even from like I say, this message is not just about in and out of sin. It could be a lot of things. You know, I mentioned earlier, poverty. Poverty is a spirit. Sometimes you have to be careful. Don't even wear a piece of stuff that you bought because you couldn't afford nothing else because you was poor. And you keep holding on to that fake. See, now, okay, let me move on from that one. See, you can afford the real thing now, so why you keep holding on to the fake? You know, you got gold, silverware now. Why you still got the ones you bought from Goldblatt's, 106 pieces for $9.99. 106 pieces of silverware for $9.99. So you can't even wear a piece of the captivity. Isaiah 43:18 says, "Remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old." And we know throughout the Bible, whenever God delivered his people out of bondage, they were warned to never look back. Never look back. You know, one of the shortest verses in the Bible, other than Jesus wept, was "Remember Lot's wife." 3 words to a verse. What did Lot's wife do? See, looking back is a dishonor to God. That's why I always say sometimes when you have some Christians, especially if you're going through a challenge or whatever, and then you say, "Boy, it just seemed like things was better when I wasn't saved." You better not say that. You get that out of your mind quick. You know, because looking back, it's a dishonor to God. Things were better when I was a heathen. Don't you say that. Things were better when I went to the other church. Don't you say that. Because looking back, it's a dishonor to God. You don't have to turn to it, but in the 13th and 14th chapter of Numbers, when the children of Israel should have possessed Canaan at the time they should have, and then what they do, then they say, we better off back in Egypt. It was better when we were back there. Let's make a new captain. You know, and as a result, with the exception of what Joshua and Caleb and those 21 and under, they all died in the wilderness. So looking back is a dishonor to God. You cannot befriend any parts of the environment that had you captive and bound. You cannot befriend any parts of the environment that had you captive and bound. Let's go to Numbers 33. Praise God. Those of you just tuning in by webcast, we're talking about how to stay delivered. In order to stay delivered, you got to first be delivered. 33rd chapter of Numbers, let's look at verse 50. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you are passed over Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their pictures, and destroy all their molten images, and quite pluck down all their high places." In other words, he's saying there should be no reminder or any evidence of that bondage. See, in other words, when you come over into Jordan, in the land of Canaan, the land of promise, drive out all that stuff, destroy all the pit, get rid of all that stuff. No reminder, no evidence No reminder, no evidence. That's why I could say, stop holding on to them 10 blouses you got for $10 from Goldblatt's. Now, if you ain't there yet, hold on to it then, I guess. You know, hold on to it. You know, it reminds me, and I'm saying that because when we talk about deliverance, people tend to think, oh, sin and somebody on drugs and sex and all that, and that's part of it, but it goes much deeper than that. I'm not coming against it, I'm just making a point. And I'm saying that because I have a gold nugget bracelet that I bought. It's been 25 years, and I bought it in 1990 in California at that time for $100. Now, it's not real, but it's the best. And that gold bracelet nugget, to this day, is still shining, has not tarnished, has not anything. I mean, it is the best costume, really. It's 25 years old. Now, if I wanted to, I could be, but I won't do that. See, because I bought it 25 years ago because, you know, I wasn't where I'm at now. But for me to put that on and wear it as if it's something else when I do have the real things. See, I'm trying to make a point here now. Now, if you ain't there yet, that ain't what I'm talking about. You know, we all faith it till we get, hey, you all know my story. For years, I had the diamonds I used to buy downtown for $5 at the time. And then you could only wear them for about 2 months and they start turning. Then I found a way how you can keep them gold by getting some hard as nail polish and polish on them. And then you can keep them for about a year or two. You know, I'm trying to make a point now. So no evidence of that bondage. Now, what happens if you don't? Look down at verse 55. But if you will not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come to pass that those which you let remain of them shall be pricks in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and shall vex you in the land wherein you dwell. Wow. If you don't do it, it'll end up, you let it remain, it just be pricks in your thorn in your side. Now, I know this just sounds so, but we talking about staying and maintaining your deliverance when you've been delivered. See, that's why you can't hold on to objects or even items. And I remember teaching this years ago. That was part of your place of captivity. You know, I don't need to hold on to something that reminds me of my past sinful life. You know, every time I look at this glass, this reminds me of Judy. And I'm married to Mary. Hallelujah. You don't need to do that. The Apostle Paul said it best in Philippians 3. Let's go there. Third chapter of Philippians, verse 13. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. You see, if you don't leave the past behind, then it's going to stay alive in your present, and we know if it's in your present, it's going to affect your future. You got to leave that past. You got to leave it behind. You know, you got to leave it. You know how some people say, yeah, you know, back in the day. You have to watch that type of talk. Back in the day. Leave it, leave it. You know. I remember early on, when I say early on in our marriage, the first 10 years, because we married 32, so it was still early in the first 10 years. And I had an opportunity to do something. Gosh, what movie was that? Yeah, Love Jones. Yeah. Now, I know if I'd have been doing some Love Jones, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. Anybody see Love Jones? I'm talking about the Lorenz Tate role. Never mind, if you didn't see it, don't watch it. That, you know. And I can't sit up there and think about, boy, I could have been in Hollywood. What? No. You have to leave that stuff behind. You got to leave it behind. Because if you don't, it'll stay in your present. You know, oh, I could have been, or I should have been. Leave that stuff, forget that. Oh, I should have married Sue and not Mary. I should have married Bob and not Harry. Leave that stuff, you didn't. Hallelujah. So if you don't leave the past behind, it will stay alive in your present, which will affect your future. You have to leave it. And that's a rule of thumb for anything. You know, what's in the past is in the past. It's over with. It's in the past. 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 Remember when you made me mad in 1984? It's in the past. Sometimes some folks can't get over yesteryear. That's why I have mixed emotions about psychological therapy. Sometimes mixed emotions is okay to a degree, to a point, but then it started becoming a problem if I got to keep going into my past. Then after 52 sessions in 5 years, then I find out I'm angry because my mama didn't come to my graduation. Get over it. Ooh, that didn't go over too well. I don't know if that was this audience or the television audience. That just, come on, get over it now. You're 50 years old. Your 8th grade graduation was 30. Move on. Hallelujah. So if you don't leave the past behind, it will stay alive in your present, which will affect your future. You know. Let's go to 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians, the 6th chapter. Now, you know what? No, we don't want to go there. Let's go to Matthew 12. Yeah, let's go to Matthew 12. See, one of the things about bondage is really it will pull you further down. Bondage, the destination to bondage is total destruction. That's even why it's kind of dangerous to not maintain your deliverance. The 12th chapter of Matthew, verse 43. It says, when the unclean spirit is gone out of a man, he walketh through dry places, seeking rest, and findeth none. Then he saith, I will return into my house from whence I came out. And when he is come, he findeth it empty, swept, and garnished. Then goeth he and taketh with himself 7 other spirits more wicked than himself. And they enter in and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. Even so shall it also be unto this wicked generation. In other words, when you don't keep or maintain your deliverance, not only do you backslide, but you can become more bound than you were before. You know, See, it ain't just you and just backslid. If you're not careful, you become more bound than what you were before. You know, it ain't just a few beers now. You on crack now. You know, it ain't just one affair. There's multiple. Or let me put it this, or it gets worse. It turned into something totally perverted. And I ain't going to even elaborate on that. So now if you don't maintain your deliverance, see that's the thing. You see, some people think they just go right back to something. No, you do that and go back to what you were bound by before, that thing get a lot worse. Because he's saying, listen, I'll come back and I'm going to bring 7 more with me. See, these ones you haven't even seen. I'm going to bring more with me. Now all of a sudden you cussing, you doing this, you stealing. I mean, see, understand there's 7 more spirits. And you done got twisted and perverted. You all kind of follow where I'm going with that, with how that can go? You ain't just liking the opposite, you liking the same now. Somebody, that can't happen to me. Oh, really? Because it's coming back with 7 more. 7 different types. So it can become very dangerous to not stay delivered. Yes, it can. So now, let's deal with some things that we have to do. Let's go to Ephesians 4, 4th chapter of Ephesians. As I always say for years, there's a job keeping yourself. Keep yourself. Some of you can't talk about nobody. You keep yourself. I'm not like them. Shut up and keep yourself. I've heard that for years. 4th chapter of Ephesians, verse 27. Neither give place to the devil, or neither give access to the devil, or don't give the enemy an opportunity. All right, that's don't give him an opportunity. Don't give him access. See, remember, he doesn't have the power to just bombard your life. You know. See, in order for him to do that, you have to give him access. So when the enemy start all just wreaking havoc all in your life, you open that door somewhere. You gave him access. Because he can't just come in and steal, kill, and destroy. He can't do that. Yes, that's his assignment. But remember, he goes as one seeking whom he may devour. He goes as a roaring lion. He's not a lion. He goes as one seeking. He's got to seek. In order for him to get in, you got to give him access. He can't just break in. The devil just can't do that. He can't just ransack your house, break in without permission. When the devil starts really, we've given him access somewhere. So he's saying here, neither give place to him, don't give opportunity, don't give access. All right? Let's go to Romans 13. See, sometimes you got to check, where did I live? What door did I leave open? See, it ain't always the front door. I closed the window. You left the basement window open. See, not the obvious. See, the front door, that's obvious. See, a lot of us, we didn't do that. I ain't do all that. I ain't like that. No. You left the basement window open. That thing that didn't seem so obvious. That looked like it couldn't really hurt nobody. Romans 13, verse 14. He says, but put ye on the Lord Jesus Christ, and make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lusts thereof. Those who have Amplified Bible says, but clothe yourself with the Lord Jesus Christ, the Messiah. Make no provision for indulging the flesh. Put a stop to thinking about the evil cravings of your physical nature to gratify its desires and lusts. So it said, don't make no provision. In other words, close all doors of opportunity for your flesh. Don't give it an opportunity. Don't give it an outlet to manifest. Don't give your flesh what it wants. And one of the things you got to do, close the opportunity. You know, it goes back to what we've been teaching for seeming like forever with this boyfriend-girlfriend thing with the saints. See, the issue with that is especially marriage ain't on your mind now. If it's not, you ain't no husband, no wife, no wedding. Oh, this is just my girlfriend, mom. But see, you putting yourself in a position. You giving your flesh an opportunity. In other words, when your flesh start acting, or when your hormones start rising. See, if you ain't got nobody, it's easier to calm yourself down. But if you got somebody who can gratify, see, you don't put yourself in that position. See, that's one of the main things what we've taught about that. You don't put yourself in that position. I remember saying this to one of the guys at the health club. He was saying, you know, I'm trying to live right, do this, that, but the one thing that I'm just struggling with, he said, that sex thing. And I said, you got to stop putting yourself in certain positions. That's the first thing you got to do. Stop putting yourself with an opportunity where you can fulfill that desire. And if you ain't ready to get married, just don't do anything. Just stop. You don't need to talk. We just friends. Oh, really? What's that expression, friends with, I was going to say benefits, but friends with sin? You don't put yourself in that position. See, and that's with anything. Now we say that, but really, your flesh don't make room for it. You know, I remember some years ago when the enemy tried to get me with my giving and certain things, and what I do, I said, listen, I ain't gonna give that devil an opportunity. I would just go to the currency exchange. It didn't matter at that time; it cost $2 or whatever it was, and just got a money order. See, because I wasn't going to risk waiting days and write no check and all. Let me go get a money order and write it out to the church. See, I wasn't going to give that enemy no opportunity. I wasn't going to take that chance. See, sometimes you got to be aggressive like that. See, don't play games with yourself. I'll be all right. No, don't fool yourself. Don't be around certain things. You know. Praise the Lord. That's why I don't knock some folk who refuse to, Christians who refuse to watch R-rated movies. Especially if you ain't married. Or even listen to certain secular songs. Now, I know I'm a really loud. I felt the whole city of Chicago hover when I said secular songs. You got to be careful with that stuff. And it's more easy access now than it ever was before. You know, when I was growing up, if you had to see something, you had to buy something. You ain't got to do that now. Easy access now. Now, don't somebody lose their hair. I'm not coming against secular stuff. I'm not saying, oh, you're going to hell. I didn't say that. So don't nobody think that I didn't say that. But you just got to be careful. You got to know you. You know, and sometimes you have to stay away from certain people, places, and things. You know, I've said this for years. There are certain people I just won't be around. I just won't. Certain places I just won't go. Because I don't want to put myself in a certain position. So you got to crucify the flesh. You got to take authority over it. So make no provisions for it. All right? Let's go to 1 Thessalonians. Now we're talking about stand delivered. And this goes with any and everything. You know, like I say, it's not just the obvious sin things. That goes with anything. You know. It's even with coming to church. You have to be careful hanging around folks who don't like to go to church. I don't go to Bible class. Hey, you trying to go. Then you keep hanging around that person, eventually you're going to stop going. See, this goes with anything. All right. 1 Thessalonians 5:22. Now this verse kind of throws out those who be saying it don't take all that. 1 Thessalonians 5:22 says, abstain from all evil. Don't say that. Now, if it just said that, we can all do a thumbs up with that. Yeah, that's right, abstain from all evil. But it says abstain from all appearance of evil. This word abstain, it means to hold oneself, to keep away, distance, separate, or depart. So abstain from all appearance means view, shape, or sight. So he's saying, we're not just saying just abstain from evil, we know that, but even from the appearance of it. In other words, we know that, you know, if something looks evil, that doesn't necessarily mean it is. Because we're not saying that. But he's saying abstain, to keep away, keep distant, to separate, to depart, even from the appearance of it. See, our responsibility is to stay away from anything that can be easily perceived or interpreted as evil. See, it's easy to say just stay away from, but anything that can easily be perceived or interpreted as evil. Now, keep in mind, we're going back to those, you stay free and how you do this. You're a disciple, the disciplined one, and then the truth and all of that. And I understand everybody is not there, but these are some things you do, even from the appearance of it. Even stay away from, we ain't saying it is wrong, but even if it looked like it could be, you know, it could, like it's interpreted as evil. I remember years ago, and it's not really an issue now because you got more type of different stores, but I remember years ago, and the Lord convicted me about it. I'm just telling you my story. It was a particular store, and I was probably on the bus somewhere. You know that was years ago. I was on the bus. And I was going, and I wanted something to drink. Now I'm walking, and the only place to get something to drink was a liquor store. They were one of them real small ones. Now I'm thinking, if I go in there, then come out in it with a bag. See, at the time I was a deacon too. Come out with a bag, ain't nothing in there but a liter pop. But somebody see me Ain't nothing wrong with the pop, but the fact of, I wanted a pop. And the only place to get one was this particular just straight liquor store. And then I come out the liquor store with my brown bag. And somebody said, hey, ain't that Deacon Pettis? See, somebody said, it don't take all that. Isn't nothing wrong with the pop? But it's the appearance, how it can be interpreted. I feel like that statement, like I'm too saved. I was in my 20s in that day, and y'all was looking at me like what? The appearance. See, he's saying even abstain from the appearance of you. You got to be careful even with the appearance. Now, I can really run with that to another degree. I'm driving along the street and I see somebody, not nobody here, but I see somebody, some woman that I know, and she's standing at the bus stop. Do I pick her up? I'm just throwing something out there. And she one of them real nice looking sisters. Do I pick up, hey, I'm doing the Good Samaritan thing. You at the bus stop, I'm going that way, and then I'm driving. Then at the stoplight, then I stop there, and then somebody, hey, Apostle Pettis, that ain't Sister Pettis. See, now don't y'all be like, oh, that ain't nothing. The holiness people love this kind of talking. It's just some of y'all choking on it. Now, we stand with the book. Even the appearance. It ain't nothing evil about picking somebody up, taking them for, but even the appearance. Man, I thought this was going to be a smooth, easy lesson, but it seemed like it just kind of. See, and that goes with anything. The appearance. Let's go to Proverbs 6. I'm gonna wrap this up quick. Man. I know I went into Christianity 506 with that one. That type of talk, that ain't for new Christians. That's kind of like, man. We are our brother's keeper too. And it's not that you be in bondage to anything, but as believers, we have a responsibility. You know that as a Christian, a certain way for your walk is to be, and you be aware of it. One of the things I learned, especially after we especially started coming on TV, I run into people. They say, "Hey, Pastor." And I had to get used to and not being afraid because if somebody says something just like, hey, but just act like I know everybody. Because I would hate to somebody say, hey, Pastor Ben, and I say, hey, what up? Boy, acting all saved on TV, a snob. So you got to be aware of that kind of stuff. Even if you don't feel like it. I don't feel like talking. I don't feel like being Pastor Pettis today. Hey, Pastor Pettis. Hey! That's how it go. What'd I say? Proverbs 6? 6th chapter of Proverbs. And this kind of ties in even with that appearance. 6th chapter of Proverbs, verse 27. Can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? Can one go upon hot coals and his feet not be burned? Now, we know with this, you can't play with fire. Yeah, that's more or less what that's saying. Don't, you know, and some people be like, oh, I can do that. That don't bother me. All right. Don't play with fire. Don't play with temptations. You know, that don't bother me. No, don't do that. Man can't take fire and his clothes not get burned. You have to be very, very, very careful. All right? Now, let me end it. Now, the next thing, the last thing, and I'll stop, is when we've tried to maintain our deliverance in all areas, is accountability. Accountability. Let's go to Proverbs 13. 13th chapter of Proverbs. And verse 20. Thirteenth chapter, Proverbs, verse 20. Said, he that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise. In other words, you need to be accountable to somebody who's strong, stern, who's not going to baby you, but who will more or less keep you in check with the Word of God. You know, whatever it is that you're trying to maintain, you need some accountability. You know, if you're trying to stay delivered, be accountable. Somebody who's going to like, hey, what you doing? Now, some people, you all in my business. Then you're not ready then. If you're trying to maintain your deliverance, you don't mind somebody say, hey, well, how's it going? What you doing? Oh, such I ain't doing nothing. Be accountable. You know. Somebody who won't baby you. Proverbs 11:14 says, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. You know. And we all have to have some level of accountability. All of us. You know. So if I'm trying to maintain my deliverance, some accountability. You know, Pastor Laura, like I said, it ain't just about sin. It could be with anything. Every now and then, she would tell me, she'd say, are you still sending your support to our partners, to the partner ministries? See, because I can get like, hey, we're in the midst of a big building fund, and we're trying to meet our own stuff and all of that. And I don't need to be helping, you know, several of our ministry partners that we help. But every now and then say, you still? Come on, that's accountability. And that's part of that. See, because in that area, if I stop my giving, because I know what's gotten me here, is my obedience to my giving. Now, if I stop all of that, guess what? I'm going to get back bound. And that poverty spirit will come over and everything else. You know. So I need that accountability. We all need it in whatever area it is. You know, especially husbands and wives are different. That accountability. Or if you're a person that you were bound by something and you just newly walking in your deliverance, you definitely need accountability. You know, and don't get mad if somebody asks you, who on the phone? Sometimes you ramping and raving, you sound guilty. And that's part of now I'm talking about those of us who want to be and stay delivered. Give some accountability. You know, where was you at? Some parents be afraid to ask their kids, especially who still live in your household, where was you at? Are you kidding me? Where were you at? Wait, where you been? Oh, so. Now you say that. I ain't got to tell. Oh, really? See, you ain't ready. And it's not even all about just distrusting certain things. Now, Pastor Laura and I, we trust each other. I mean, we do. But hey, we're still, hey, where were you at? What you doing if we're away or something like that? It's accountability. I'm at the store. I'm at such and such. Or I'm over here. Or I was over here. I'm what, you know. It ain't no minding my own business. You don't do that. You know. So all of these things are key in not only being delivered, but staying delivered. Like I say, don't say the obvious sins. It goes with anything. You've got to do these things to stay delivered, so you don't go back. We've all been delivered from something, and maybe some of you in the process of your walking in your deliverance. But it's not going to happen automatically. You got to do something. All right? I'm out of time. We're going to wrap this up. This is part of the how-to series. And next time we'll deal with how to something else. You just have to tune in to find out how to next time. God bless everybody. Come on, let's thank God.